Alright, hey guys, it's Jamie, and anyone who's ever recorded with me knows that I'm a huge fan of the Peavey Revalver plugin for demoing guitars. Today what I wanted to do is take a moment to compare that plugin against this, an actual Peavey JSX. So we'll be comparing the two side by side, and we're going to try to match the cabs as closely as possible, miking situations, microphones, everything as much as I can within reason. And then we'll stack the two up next to each other and see how they actually sound. So let me show you my setup. Alright, for guitars I've decided to use this, my Gibson SG Standard. It is completely stock. It's got the original pickups. This is a 498 and a 490, which are pretty standard Gibson pickups, and it should give us a very classic rock sound. Alright, here's the front panel of my JSX. It's hard to tell because these knobs are entirely all chrome, but I have every one of the controls for the EQ, volume, and gain on each channel straight up at 12 o'clock. Both of the fat switches in the up position. The noise gate is on full, which only affects both the Ultra and Crunch channels. And over here on the master section, master volume's at about 2, and presence and resonance are both up at 12. So that's what I've got running on the front side of the amp. You'll also notice I'm using the foot switch to change channels. That's why that switch is in the Ultra position. Alright, this is the speaker cab I'll be using to record the JSX. This is a Randall isolation cab. I've got a 12-inch Celestion Vintage 30 inside, and it's mic'd up with a Shure SM57 mic. I've got this mic about halfway between the cone and the edge. We're off at a slight angle, not quite 45 degrees, it's a little bit steeper than that. It's actually about 30 degrees. And it's about 1.5 inches off of the speaker cone. So this box will remain closed throughout the entire recording, and we'll see if we can duplicate it in Reaper. For pedals, my signal path will go into a Boss Chromatic tuner, followed by this ABY box where I can select whether I want to send the signal off to the mixer or off to the amplifier. In this case, I'll be using both A and B at the same time. That way I only play the riff once, and it records to both places, the plug-in and the actual amplifier, simultaneously. That ensures that there's no differences in the playing when you hear the final track. Alright, now I'm going to take a moment to go over what the virtual amp is going to be doing. So I've got Peavey Revalver open and running, and I'll be recording everything in Reaper, by the way. So here you see I've got the amp loaded at the top. Same thing, all my equalization, presence, resonance, master, mid, low, and gain are all straight up at 12 o'clock noon, and my master volume is at 2, just like the amp I'll be recording actually out in the room. This is the clean channel. For the speaker cabinet, I've used the SCS because that kind of allowed me to get a little bit closer to what I'm actually using. So I've got it set up for one speaker, 112, the Heavenly Vintage 12, which is their take on the Celestion Vintage 30. I've got it set up for their take on the SM57. I've got it about 1.5 inches, as close as I could from the distance. About halfway between the cone and the edge, and they measure everything with radians, so about 0.5 radians is pretty close to 30 degrees. It's closer to like 0.52, but these faders actually that they have here, these sliders, make it very difficult to get very precise measurements. I wasn't able to get 1.5 exactly. For example, 1.51 is about as close as I could get without messing with it all night long. And then I left all the EQ pretty much how it was, with the exception of the lows are boosted. And you'll notice, through the Clean, the Crunch, and the Ultra channels, I've boosted the lows. And that's because I already know straight out the gate that Randall isolation cab accentuates the lows a little bit. So I wanted to kind of give my program here an edge with those lows. So that was the Clean. You can see the Crunch setup here. Very similar, everything's 12 o'clock noon, fat switch is up, noise gate is maxed out. Something I should mention on those noise gates is actually JSX noise gate doesn't do a whole lot, at least not at high gain. If you're using reasonable gain levels perhaps, but here's my Ultra channel and you can see my gain is just up halfway at 5, and at 5 it was buzzing like a mosquito attack. So yeah, just kind of a side note on the noise gate for the JSX. And I did not put a noise gate in front of the amp. Same thing, you notice there's no noise gate here in my chain, just because it was kind of a factor I wouldn't be able to control. I don't know what noise gate Peavey was modeling when they created this program, but I'm pretty sure I probably don't have it here in my studio. So I just, to eliminate that factor, I left the noise gate off. Same reason why there's no reverb of any kind. It's a very dry signal. So yeah, last thing to note is the fact that I wasn't exactly looking for super recording quality here. Some of these tones that you're going to hear are not exactly what I would play or record with. I mean, nobody really sets their amp for everything 12 o'clock, noon, and same thing with the miking positions. I use a lot of different mics other than the SM57. So these are not my normal playing or recording tones. Some of them aren't even pretty. But the idea is to, in theory, the tones from the real amp and the tones from this virtual amp should be absolutely identical. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and shut off this video, and I'm going to just import the MP3s rather than me playing it live for you here on the video, because the MP3s will give you a little bit higher quality than this recording screen capture program I'm using trying to pick up the audio. So yeah, we'll listen to the samples. And so there you have it. That was my version of Amp versus Computer. I hope you found it informative, and I will see you next time. Thanks.